My name is George Barris, and I'm here with probably the world's most famous automobile. Without a doubt, still number one after many, many decades, the famous television 1966 Batmobile. I'm proud to say that I was the designer and original builder of this automobile for a great television show with Dozier at 20th Century Fox called Batman. Adam West, Burt Ward, and many, many great stars. I have a lot of stories to tell you about this famous car. We had 3 weeks. When Dozier came to me with Bob Kane and Adam West, they said, "What can you give us for the 20th century in 1966? And with Dozier's concept of Batman with the pow and the bang and the wow, I had a car that would also go with the bings and the bangs and the same thing. We had to have rocket tubes. We had to have gas knobs. We had to have seat injectors. Also, to catch the Joker, we threw some oil out there so he would skid out. To catch the Briddler, we throw some nails out so it'd puncture his tires. Just to give you an idea of the crime-fighting implements that we had in the 60s compared to now in the year 2000. Bob Kane had a Batman car way back in the 40s when he created the comic strip with a bat face cut out on the front of a Lincoln Zephyr. I said, I want to incorporate the bat features into the car, not just a plaque stuck onto it. So I made the ears into the fenders. I made the lights become the headlights. I made the nose become the chain slicer. The grill extended out and it became part of the front end. Then from there it flowed on back where I had the 15-foot bat fin fingers in the back, which had the splices and the double bubble we had for both Adam and Burt Ward. I locked the doors shut and I made Burt and Adam both jump over the doors and into the fenders so that they get inside the car, just to give you an idea of something, again, different. Made them very athletic. That means they were really the crime fighters. We had to incorporate the injector seats so that if somebody went to steal the car, they had the wrong key, the wrong word, and then they would push the wrong buttons, and we would just shoot them right out of the car. Of course, we elevated them with cables. Everything had to work, because we didn't have the electronics and the computers and the special effects that give you illusion on the screens like you do today. We had to make them actually operate, that when you seen the smoke, it was smoke. You seen the burner coming out of the back? Well, we didn't have the big force, great flames. We used kerosene, an igniter, and a fan to blow out the exhaust flames. I was in a show in a town called Fargo, North Dakota, and we were doing a press media shot. And I'm driving down the street with the press people, and all of a sudden, wow, 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 and I pull over, and this guy gets out. He says, "You have no windshield wipers on that car, and your taillights are not right." He says, "I'm going to impound that car." And I said, wait a minute, officer. We're just doing a test or a press shot for the TV, and I don't care what you're trying to say. He called the tow truck in, towed in the car, hauled me into the police station, and arrested me. We go before the judge, and the judge looks at his officer, and he says, "Wilbur, do you realize what you did?" And what do you mean? He said, "You impounded the famous Batmobile, and you threw Mr. Barris in jail." He said, "I'm going to demote you to a dog catcher." In reminiscing about the movie was kind of a lot of fun, because we had more time to make adaptations. Because this car weighs 6,000 pounds. That's 3 tons, to give you an idea of the difference in the weight. The engine, big old Ford. Well, and in fact, the car started out as an experimental Lincoln Futura. That's the first thing everybody asked me. What was it? Was it a Pontiac? Was it a T-Bird? Was it a Chevy? Experimental Lincoln Futura. I mean, it was a concept car. It was never a production car. We actually took the car from a scene called Started Without a Kiss with Debbie Reynolds and Glenn Ford, where I used the car in the first implement of the shows, which was another movie. From there, from the 3 weeks I had to build the automobile, we created the Batmobile. This is the number one car. We had to build 5 of them. The reason why is that each car had to do a different thing. The stunt car was number 5 car. It did all the chases and the jumps and all that. The number 4 car was the race car. That was the car that had drag racing scenes against our famous Green Hornet, Van Williams and Bruce Lee. The number 3 car was an exhibition car. It was the one that was used for exhibition. Number 2 car was a double for the number 1 car. But the car had to start somewhere before it really went into the full-size car. And actually, we have the model. This little model here was made where we would be able to get the size and the spectra scenes that we were able to use also through some of the filming. And it was in scale, actually a 3rd size. Here we are, 35 years or more later, and still in more demand than any of the other famous movie and TV cars.
Batmobile. Everybody wants one.
Anton said, what part of the movie would you like to do? And I said, I'd like to be involved with the best prop ever made for any movie, and that's the Batmobile. And he says, you got it. And that's what I did.
My favourite gadget? Well, my favourite was the Batmobile. I mean, that was a treat for us to build something like that. The design of the Batmobile was Anton's first baby, really. He had been thinking about this probably 4 months before I even joined the project, and he had rough sketches of it. Ford was bidding for it one time, and I was very nervous they were going to get it, but they didn't. They couldn't do it in a time factor. They wanted 6 months. We built it in 14 weeks, which is quite a feat.
John Evans, who was special effects, decided we'd build it onto an existing old car. But what we had to do, of course, to get the design of it, and Nigel Phelps with Anton came out with pencil lines, and then I would draw it up, and he got a modeller in who made a little moquette, like a little clay model. And then Anton and Tim would come down, because it was an important thing for the film. They'll make it a bit longer here, do this, do that with it. And we eventually come with the final thing, and he said, that's it, that's what we're going to do.
We both kind of went, yeah, you know, because it made us kind of laugh because it was tough, but it was kind of perverse. It had a weird quality to it that I can't quite put my finger on, but it still had the bat kind of motif to it, but something else, just an aggressive thing.
The first thing, the most important thing, is to come up with a design that works from the outside. Then you can deal with the practicalities of, like, you know, how do you get into it, you know, what's driving it, you know, how do we get flames out of it. All of those things, they're a logical part of the process.
We had to have it sculptured out in polystyrene to get the shape.
You know, when it's first sculpted, I mean, you're seeing this big white blob of polystyrene. It's like, oh, it looks pretty good.
Tim Burton looked at me and he said, great, where's the door? And the whole thing was made without a door. It was just in polystyrene. And I said, well, that's a good point.
It's only when you've got the form working and the shape working that you realise that, well, it's going to have to be either the cab is going to have to hinge up or slide forward.
I had been in a Harrier jump jet, and that's how the idea of the hood slid forward. And that was the way that they got out.
The detail of the window was derived from, like, a gun emplacement, and there was, like, these little slitty windows, a pair of slitty windows, like,
Have it completely done in fiberglass. A specified paint job was done on it, which took 10 days probably. We had our chassis built and we put it on and it fitted like a glove first time. So that was wonderful.
There was only about 6 inches clearance between the ground and the bottom of the car.
One of the, you know, psychological things with it was that John put in, I think it was like a Chevy Impala engine. So it sounded great, you know.
We took it from there to the test track. We got 90.5 out of it before it started to shake.
You know, you have paparazzi everywhere, but, I mean, you have people trying to take photographs of the Batmobile for the first time. You didn't have the internet, you know, with all the sites now that post everything. You had the newspapers, so, yeah, we had quite a bit of that.